the Agile brand.
What's the first word that comes to mind when you think about government? Is it efficiency? Well, maybe not yet, but there's a company and a software platform that's working to change this, one process, one form, and one resident experience at a time. Welcome to One Amazing Thing About CivicPlus. I'm your host, Greg Kihlström, and I'd like to welcome Heather Alsup, lead solutions engineer at CivicPlus, and she's going to be sharing one amazing thing with us today. Heather, welcome to the show.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing this. So before we take a look here, why don't you start by giving us a little background on you and your role at CivicPlus?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I am a lead solutions engineer specifically on our rec management project or product. But in a prior life, I was actually in Parks and Recreation for about 9 years, just outside the Houston area, which is where I still am. The product that I am now working with, I actually used as a customer for a couple of years. And then I like to say that they poached me, and I've been here now for about 3 years. But yeah, it's been a great ride, and so it's been fun working on both sides of it so far.
That's great. Well, that's a good sign that you were a user of the product and then you actually worked for the company. So
Yeah,
instead of never wanting to see it again or whatever. So that definitely that bodes well, right?
yeah,
um, so let's before we take a look, why don't we start with why do you choose the feature that you're going to walk through today? Who's the user of this, and who's the audience that we're targeting with this?
yeah, great. So the our target audience, Civic Plus works mainly with local government. This is specifically for Parks and Recreation or Parks and Recreation adjacent departments. The feature that we're going to be looking at today is our document management feature. So there are a lot of solutions out there that allow for registrations and reservations and all of the kind of the basic things. But where this piece is a little bit different than some of our competitors out there is this is not a third-party integration piece. It is built within the system, and it is an efficient way to collect documentation safely, like birth certificates, vaccination cards, certificates of insurance, verification of residency, and things like that during the transaction process and afterwards. So it just makes it a more efficient process for both the customers and the resident who is doing the transaction.
Great, great. Well, yeah, let's take a look. Why don't you share your screen?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so in here, I already have queued up a couple of things in my shopping cart. I'm not going to talk too much about the other pieces of our checkout process, just because that would make this much longer. But we do have some basic steps like asking questions that we can go through, which I have to in order to get to the step that I want to talk to. We have some waivers, so they can collect those part of the checkout process here. But the piece that we're going to talk about today is this next step, and that is the document collection tool. So one of the great pieces about this feature is you can see right here, I have uploaded this already. With part of the third-party solutions with some of our competitors, it requires them to go to a third-party site, create another account, upload documents into a different solution, and then staff has to then pull those or retrieve those documents from somewhere else. With this, it is looking at specifically the things in my shopping cart. It allows the customers to upload those documents directly during the checkout process. This is also a great mobile-friendly function, so they can just take a picture of it with their phone rather than having to have a scanner at their house if they don't have one. And then once they have uploaded a document, staff can set retention dates for those, so they can have items satisfy that satisfy that need across multiple activities or multiple rentals so that they don't have to upload it every single time they register for something. Very similar to this document or this birth certificate piece here. It is an extra level of security. So like I mentioned, we can collect some of those more sensitive items and then store those in secured servers for up to 10 years in the system. This feature is, like I mentioned, just makes it more efficient for both staff and for the customers. They can require them to have it during the checkout process, but it also allows them to upload it at a later date. So for all the parents that don't carry their child's birth certificate around with them during
Right.
the registration time frame with summer camp opening and registration goes super fast, they can always come back at a later date and upload those documents to the system whenever they're available to do that at a later time. But yeah, it's super straightforward, simple. It just adds an extra step to the checkout process, doesn't navigate them away from the system. They can complete their transaction, and then that's sort of the end of it. So it's
Yeah.
super straightforward and very simple to use.
Yeah, that's great. So, as you mentioned, that's gotta save. I mean, I just know from, as an end user, it is super annoying to have to keep track of all documents and everything like that. So I'd imagine a lot of the end users are doing this frequently, right? So it's just a pain, and it almost seems like there's a lot of waste involved in just keep uploading the same document over and over again, right?
Yeah. So there's some security issues there. There's still entities and municipalities out there that are collecting some of these documents by hand and just storing them in files in in their offices or getting them via email and storing them on their computers. So there's that extra level of security and the efficiency piece. And the system also sends out things like automated reminders if they haven't met their deadline or if they're upcoming deadlines. So yeah, it definitely makes it easier for both parties.
Yeah, and yeah, to your point, the internal teams that are managing this stuff, just I can imagine. I mean, what you've mentioned, kind of the typical workflow is they're probably storing stuff in a bunch of different places, right? And yeah, it sounds like kind of a nightmare, right?
Yeah, it
Definitely.
definitely
Well,
can be.
yeah. Well, Heather, thanks for sharing this. So, one last question before we wrap up here. People that are seeing this and interested in it, what's a best way for them to see more and get their hands on it themselves?
Yeah. So if somebody is already a Civic Plus customer, we have things like websites and agenda and meeting management software. So if they already have something with Civic Plus, they can just reach out to their account manager to find out more about the recreation management product and the document management solution. If they are not a Civic Plus customer, they can visit civicplus.com and all of our products, as well as the information about those and how to go about finding more information, is all on that website.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, again, I'd like to thank Heather Alsup, lead solutions engineer at Civic Plus, for joining the show. You can learn more about Heather and Civic Plus by following the links in the show notes.